So for the first exercise, you're going to create a new C# project, and it should be a console application. So you should have C# for the language. I'm going to choose console app, and we're going to call it no exception. And I'm actually going to stick mine into a CIT110 folder. And hit create. Oops, went over here. Okay, so what I'm going to do then is copy this code, Control C, and I'm just going to paste it right over the code that I have. And then we're going to be filling in the code that could potentially throw an exception. And then we'll be doing a couple different catch blocks, and then we will be doing a finally block. So this is just a little review of what we did in the 110 class. And so this, keeping it simple here, for our try, the things that could potentially create a problem would be them typing the wrong kind of data in, and them entering a 0 for our divisor. So we aren't going to do checking in here where they're keying it in. What we're going to do is we're creating some catch blocks to handle those problems. Okay, so rather than coding it in here, we have coded the catch blocks to deal with it. Okay, so we've got a format exception, which is going to handle bad data. Okay, so we're asking for integers. So if they type anything but an integer, um, it'll trigger that exception. If they enter a 0 for the divisor, it's going to do a divide by 0 exception. And if anything else happens that shouldn't, it'll run through this generic exception. Okay, so that's what we're going to code up first. So I'm going to quick pause and get that coded. All right, so I've coded all of that in. So this is going to handle any error condition. And then in the finally block, I do want them to be able to enter another one and continue. So we're going to add the code that asks if they, do you want to try it again? And then we're going to read in their answer. And if they want to go again, they have to key in a Y for yes. If they do anything else, then we are going to set again to false. And then that will trigger the condition here in the while loop. That would be false, and they would fall out of the loop and be done with the program. And so that is going to go in the finally block. And if you guys remember, the finally block always runs. So if there's an error, it'll run. So they'll be able to go again. And if there's not an error, it will also run. And then you'll notice that the read line that we're using is right inside the while loop. So we're reading from the console, which is going to be a string, and we are immediately trying to convert it to character. And let's see. So if they can't convert it to character, that's a problem. And we need to ask them to enter a valid character. All right. So by the time we get past that loop, we have read in the character. It did get stored in more because if this works, then this is where it's going to store the character value. So we're going to check that. And so that we don't have to check both upper and lower case, what we're going to do is we're just going to convert it to lower while we're checking. Okay, so that doesn't equal yes, okay, which means they want to stop. Then we're going to set again to false. All right, and that is our program. Okay, so we're going to save this. And then we're going to test it and make sure it works. So you run it. And so first, we're going to make sure that it runs, with good data. Whoop, I didn't have numeric lock on. Well, our error handling is at least working, so we'll try it again. Oops, that is what I get. All right, we'll try this all over. All right, 6, 2. Yay, that worked. Okay, so now we're going to do a Y. And let's do divide by 0. All right, so that's working. Let's do another Y. Let's enter garbage. All right, so that error check is also working. That triggered that format exception error. And so let's do it again. And now let's just do a super big number. Okay, so that number is bigger than an integer. Okay, and so that is not going to go through format exception, and it's not going to go through divide by 0, but it is going to trigger an exception, so it'll go through this last default block. So I'm going to press enter. Okay, so that was our unexpected error. Okay, and then this value was either too large or too small. That is coming from this exception object. That's the message that we're getting from that object. All right, so now I'm going to say, you want to continue, yes or no? I'm just going to say no, and we are done. So that is the first exercise. Now to get this up on GitHub, you have a Git menu here, and you are going to have to kind of connect your account. And mine happens to be connected. Okay, but you will have to actually click here and go through the steps to connect to GitHub. But once you have it connected, it should stay connected. And then every time you want to upload, you have to remove private repository. And by default, it will name the repository the same as the project, which is fine. Okay, and then you can just hit create and push. Okay, and so here it's pushing it up to GitHub. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead in my other screen and pull up my GitHub repositories. Okay, it says that it got there successfully. And I got to sign into GitHub. Oh, goodness. Let me pause while I do all of this authenticating. Hold on a minute. All right, so I logged into GitHub, I authenticated, and now I'm just going to pull up my repositories. And you can see it is listed. And if we click on it, yours should look similar. And the important file in here is your program CS file because that is the one that has your code in it. So once you've got this, you'll just click up here and press Control C to copy. And then you can go into the Dropbox and paste it right in there. So let me see. Let me go back over here. I'm going to go back into student view. Oops, I'll have to get out of student view. This isn't turned on yet. So you guys will be able to see everything for the first week, at least in lesson one. And we're going to go into the Dropbox here. And then you will add the link to the Dropbox.